Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Extra Innings Podcast, where today we are going to continue the series that was started in last episode and go over the Atlanta Braves 2020 offseason, see if they improved, how they improved, where they improved, and I'm very excited for this one. Did a lot of research for this, and hopefully it comes out a little better than the Arizona Diamondbacks one. But I do want to say I appreciate the support on the Arizona Diamondbacks one. I appreciate all the comments. I appreciate, good and negative feedback because I view negative feedback as constructive feedback. And if I can learn, because this is my first ever podcast, it's not something that I'm used to. It's something that I'm really passionate about a certain topic and I wanted to get my thoughts out there. So I decided to do a podcast. And I believe that it's going to work out well. But, anything I can improve on, please let me know. So, just the 2019 Atlanta Braves year in review. They went 97-65. They won the NL East with a 50-31 home record and a 47-34 road record. They lost in the NLDS to the St. Louis Cardinals in Game 5. Overall, they were one of the best teams in baseball. 50-31 at home. They don't really lose at home. They have a beautiful ballpark in SunTrust, and they don't really lose. When they're home, you kind of assume that they're gonna get the win. Like even in the NLDS, they did lose a couple home. They lost I think one home game, but that came down to Colton Wong's double in the ninth inning. So, they are one of the better home teams in baseball, and they're not like shabby on the road. 47-34 is a great road record. Um, they're a team that you don't want to face because that offensive lineup, Ozzie Albies, Ronald Acuna Jr. You have Dansby Swanson, Freddie Freeman, Adam Duvall. The addition you'll see of Marcell Ozuna. They just have a really good and well-rounded team offensively. They did lose one power bat that we'll go over, but I don't think it'll affect them too much. As I believe that he only has a couple really good more seasons left until he starts regressing. So let's go over who they lost overall. So they lost Dallas Keuchel to the White Sox. Dallas Keuchel was a huge part of that starting rotation. But they do still have Max Fried, and I believe that he could be a number one. They do have Soroka as well. I believe that Fried could be a number one. I don't know if he's there quite yet, but he could be. So losing Keuchel is a little bit of a hit, but the amount of money that the White Sox paid him, I don't know if I think it was smart by the Braves to not match it, not match it, but not to put in a competitive offer, and I think they made the right choice by letting him walk. Another one where I think that they gave their efforts to trying to re-sign, but just makes more sense for him to move on is Josh Donaldson. This is the power bat that I said that they lost. Donaldson had a great year. He had a fantastic year in 2019, a resurgence, you could say, from his rough years in that last year in Toronto and that Cleveland year. He played in almost every single game, 155 games. He had 37 home runs, 94 RBIs. He hit 259 with 379 on base, a 521 slugging, and a 900 OPS. He was a 6-win player, and that's really all you can ask for out of your third baseman. No, he's good defensively, has a good arm, not as nimble as he used to be. He's entering his age 34 season, so that's why I said I don't think it's such a big deal that they lost him. It will take a couple, home runs away, and the Braves probably will still be on top of the home run leaders, one of the top teams, just because the young power bats that they have. So, in Albies, Acuna, and Freddie Freeman. So, I'm not really worried about that. Neither should the Braves, and I'm sure they're not. That's probably why they let him walk. He did get signed by the Twins, and he's playing relatively well so far. I mean, during his little stint in spring training in 9 games, he's batting .292 with 320 and a 417. I don't see him falling off right now. I see him falling off in 2 years. So could the Braves have signed him to a 1 year? Sure, they could have, but Would it have been the smartest move? I don't know. He is a relatively consistent player over his career. He had a couple rough years recently in 2018 and pretty much 2018 was a really rough year. That was his free agency year, and he was hoping to test the market and get a lot of money, but he had a tough year in 2018, so that's why he signed that one-year contract in 2019. Really solidified himself as a top hitter, you know, a top offensive third baseman, power hitter, and he came 11th in MVP voting. So he played really well. Should have been an All-Star last year, in my opinion, but he wasn't, and he got his money in Minnesota. So him leaving hurts a little, but I believe they made the right decision. This one, where I don't believe they made the right decision, was Julio Teheran. I think letting him go, he declined team option. He went to the Los Angeles Angels. I think you should have re-signed Teheran because losing Keuchel, losing Teheran, these are big guys. You're losing. It's not. They're not nobody's. I believe Teheran is one of, not that he was amazing by any means. He wasn't this all-star caliber pitcher, and he definitely wasn't. But I believe that, he could have helped. He's a good number 3, a good number 4. He's a very good number 4, and he's a fringe number 3, a really good number 4, and probably one of the best 5 pitchers in the league. But I think they're really banking on Soroka, Fried, and Foltynewicz to carry this rotation. They did sign a couple more starting pitchers, one to a minor league, one to a major league, and I'll go over those later, in Cole Hamels and Felix Hernandez. But I hope it works out for them because I do like Fried and Soroka, and I think Fried is the better of the two, but I do think Soroka's, standing at 6'5", he has that length. He kind of gives off that, when he's on that mound, he kind of gives off that Adam Wainwright type of feel, that long, lanky guy. He throws harder than Wainwright, but you can see he's like a younger Adam Wainwright in my opinion, so he without that curveball, obviously. But I think they still should have tried to re-sign Teheran, but that's just my opinion. Next, we're moving on to re-signing Darren O'Day, and I think this is a great signing. He's entering his age 37 season. They only signed him for a one-year contract with a club option in 2021. I think this is a fantastic signing. It's not a lot of money. He had an okay season. Last year, didn't play a lot of games. Only played 8 games in 2019. Played 20 games in 2018. He's had a little bit of injury issues, but consistently over his career, he's been a pretty solid pitcher. 16.4 win over replacement pitcher. He just a 2.55 career ERA is amazing. 2019 he had a 1.69 in 8 games. He has that funky delivery. He throws from almost the mound, but it's like a submarine sidearm in a sense. It throws batters timing off, and I think it's a good signing. I think it's one that cheap. It helps that bullpen. It keeps that bullpen intact, and I really like this signing, and I'm a huge fan of it. Then they went and signed Will Smith. They signed the All-Star from the San Francisco Giants. This was the probably best reliever on the market. Him, Dellin Betances, you could say. But I think Will Smith was one of the best under the radar. He was the best under the radar market pickup when it comes to relievers. A lot of teams were, bidding for him, but he decided to go to the Atlanta Braves in 2019. He had an All-Star season. He pitched to a 2.2 win over replacement, a 2.76 ERA, a 1.03 WHIP. That is a fantastic WHIP. 96 strikeouts in 65 innings. Closed 34 games. I just think he went 6-0. Not that win and loss really matters for pitchers, for relievers, but to only give up 20 earned runs in 65 innings, doesn't walk a lot of batters. 21 batters. It's a little up from 2018, but over his career, he doesn't normally walk a lot of batters. He has really good stuff. Throws hard, has good break. This is a fantastic pickup, and I think it's the best reliever signing in my opinion. I think, unless Dellin Betances, I know I bring his name up a lot. That's just because he is another big name reliever that got signed. If he can have a resurgence in, I want to say New York, but he came from New York, so New York Mets, then I think that he will be the best relieving signing. But right now I have it as Will Smith. Then they signed Travis d'Arnaud to a 2-year contract. Look, I mean, Travis is a good, serviceable catcher. He does his job, good behind the plate, has become a better hitter of late, but he's still known in his defense, in my opinion. He throws out batters. He throws out runners. You don't really want to run on him, but he's not like a Yadier Molina or a Buster Posey or Wilson Contreras, who you don't want to run on. And so I think it's a good signing. It's a good, if you want to start him. If not, you don't have to, because you do have Austin Riley. And I think Austin Riley should try to develop Austin Riley into their franchise catcher. And then you could have Travis on the bench. They went out and signed Cole Hamels to a 1-year contract. Cole Hamels, I like the signing because, like I said, I think it helps their starting pitching depth. Do I wish that he was a little younger? Yes, he's 36 years old, entering his age 37 season. It's not the greatest. He had an okay career, an okay season in 2019. He went 7-7. Don't really look at that. 3.81 ERA is a little high. A 1.4 WHIP is also higher. He only pitched 141 innings. He played 27 games. If you look at his overall career, it's a great signing. He's a great player, but doesn't strike out a lot of batters. He used to strike out a lot of batters, but now I just think he relies on the ground ball, the fly ball. He doesn't. Strikeout's not really a part of his game anymore. I mean, he struck out 143, which is pretty good. It's about 1 per inning. But I just think he's entering his age 37 season. And we don't know if he's going to play this age 37 season. So what happens at that point if he doesn't play? Yes, it's only a 1-year contract, so the Braves don't have to pick it up. They don't have to re-sign him. So I think it's a safe signing. It's a cheap signing, and if they can get a 3.5 ERA out of Cole Hamels with a lower the WHIP a little bit to a 1.2, 1.3, preferably a 1.2, then that's a great signing, and it's a good number 3. Because it'll probably be Fried, Soroka, Hamels, probably Sean Newcomb, and Foltynewicz. Not in that order specifically, but I think Folty's a 3. I think you could put Newcomb at the 5 and Cole Hamels at the 4. They re-signed Adam Duvall. I think it's a great signing. He played well last year. It's a great bat, off the bench or start him in left field. Either one, the guy has a lot of pop in that bat. So I was a fan of Duvall when he was in Cincinnati. I thought that park suited him a little better than SunTrust does. But I think he had a good year in 2019, and he's going to continue to not progress to a all-star caliber player, in my opinion, but he's an above average serviceable player who can do his job and gets it done right. Then they re-signed Mike Foltynewicz to just a 1-year deal to avoid arbitration. Same with Dansby Swanson. I like the Folty sign. I really like Folty because his stuff is very underrated. And he is underrated as a pitcher. Not a lot of people even know how to pronounce his name. Some people say Foltynewicz, Foltynewicz. I'm a fan of the signing. I think it's a good number 3. You can even put him as a number 2 if Fried or Soroka are having a rough year. And he always goes out and does his job. He does his job. He doesn't try to do too much. He's not going to overpower you with his stuff, but he'll get the ground balls. He'll get the outs, which is the big thing, and he can give you quality start after quality start, which is what you want out of a starting pitcher. The Dansby Swanson signing, you need him there. He's your franchise shortstop, and he had a really good 2019 and an even better 2019 playoffs against the St. Louis Cardinals. Just felt like everything Dansby Swanson hit was a double. He just felt like he had a double after a double after a double, and he continued to shine throughout the playoffs. Throughout those 5 games, he played really well, even on the road, which was surprising. So, and Cardinals pitchers had to pitch carefully to him, which is something that, if you look back a couple years ago, you don't see Dansby as that type of player. You look at him as his defense, but he's really progressing into an offensive star. And if he can continue to progress on this pace, he can become an all-star caliber, hitter along with a, all-star caliber defense, and that's a scary sight for the rest of the 29 teams, and especially the other 4 teams in the NL East. Then they signed Danny Echeverria. It's a good bench, but Ozzy Albies backup in a sense. He gives you the defense, gives you the speed, and he has occasional pop. So it's a good bench piece. The signing that I'm most excited for was it's a minor league signing, but the Felix Hernandez signing. I understand that Felix Hernandez is entering his age 34 season. His 16th year in the league. I'm just a really big fan of Felix Hernandez. I've watched him ever since I was young. Watching him carve up batter after batter after batter, strikeout king, and he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 straight years of over 200 strikeouts. A Cy Young in 2010. Had the last perfect game that MLB has ever seen was thrown by King Felix, and Seattle treated him really well. Unfortunately, they just couldn't build a team around him to really thrive and excel. So he did move on, but seeing him leave Seattle after that last game that he pitched against Oakland, he did lose the game, but I don't really think that mattered at that point. It was just to say farewell, and he fought during that game. If you watch that game, he fought. It wasn't, he had a rough first inning, tried to do a little too much, but he didn't give up. He continued to pitch, and he had a good outing. And it was tough to see him go, because you associate Seattle with King Felix and King Felix with Seattle. But I really hope that the 2020 season does happen, because he pitched really well in spring training through 4 games. He was 1-1 with a 1.98 ERA, a 1.3 WHIP. In 13 innings, he only gave up 3 earned runs, only walked 5 and struck out 14. I'm really hoping the season goes underway, because it's only a 1-year contract and it's a minor league contract. So I think he did enough. I think he impressed enough to be on the major league roster. Maybe not as a starter, but as a reliever. But I hope that this season gets underway, because I don't know if he'll get another chance anywhere else if this season doesn't start. So I'm really hoping for King Felix, and I'm rooting for him. I'm going to skip the signing I have here in order by going to the one right before it, and it's the re-signing of Shane Green. I like Shane Green. I think he is one of the better closers in baseball when he's healthy and when he's on top of his game. But if you look at 2019, he had an okay season, pitched you a 4.01 ERA, which is not great, to be honest. Didn't have a great season, but then again, you have to remember where he was. Before he was in Atlanta, he was in Detroit. Detroit right now is a dumpster fire. They have minor league players playing with Miguel Cabrera. So, while he was in Atlanta, he pitched to a 4.01. When he was in Detroit, he pitched to a 1.18, which is amazing. So overall, he pitched to a 2.3 in 2019. I don't know what it was about Atlanta, because even during the playoffs, he just didn't look sharp. His pitches didn't look sharp. His breaking pitches, hung over the plate. His fastball looked, just no bite on it. But that's not like Shane Green. I know that because I've seen Shane Green pitch in person, and him pitching. I remember I was in Camden Yards watching the Tigers play the Orioles, and Shane Green. I was near that visitors bullpen where you could stand. Shane Green in the bullpen is something, is a beauty to watch. He throws hard, and he treats a bullpen session and pitching in the bullpen as like he's pitching in a real game. He doesn't treat it as a warm up. He treats it as he's going out there, and I know in his head for sure he makes believe there's a batter standing in that box, and he wants to locate his pitches, and he does it flawlessly 99% of the time. So I like this signing, and I am a fan of Shane Green. So for me, I like this signing. The big signing by the Atlanta Braves is acquiring Marcell Ozuna on a 1-year contract from the St. Louis Cardinals. Now, Marcell Ozuna had an absolutely phenomenal year in St. Louis in 2019. He hit 241, but he's not really an average hitter. He hit 328 on base and a 472 slugging with an 800 OPS plus. He hit 29 home runs with 89 RBIs, 12 stolen bases in 130 games. The guy played phenomenal, and I've watched him a lot while he was in St. Louis because I am a Cardinals fan. I watched him a lot in St. Louis. Big Bear Ozuna. He's a clubhouse favorite. I'm telling you, everybody loves him, and I'm sure he's going to do the same in Atlanta. It hurts to see him go, but hopefully, we get him back in 2021. And you'll see if this podcast next year when I do the 2021 offseason. Hopefully, I talk about the Cardinals re-signing Marcell Ozuna. But for the 2020 Braves offseason review, what I'm doing right now, I think it's a fantastic signing. You put him in the outfield. It replaces Nick Markakis, who left them for the free agency. You put him out there, power bat. Not the greatest defender, just because his arm. He had elbow surgery, so his throwing mechanics are a little weird. His shoulder's not great either. So I still think it's an underrated signing. It kind of flew under the radar when it happened. Not a lot of people talked about it, but I believe that overall this helps the Braves. It brings another power bat to their lineup. When they lost Donaldson, they bring in Marcell Ozuna. You lose 37 home runs, but you gain 29 home runs. And Busch Stadium is not a hitter-friendly ballpark. So you put those 29 home runs somewhere else, you probably turn it to 34, 35. So I like this signing by the Braves. I'm a huge fan of him as a player, and I'm a huge fan of this signing for the team. So those are all the major important signings. My prediction for the Braves record, I didn't do this for the Diamondbacks, but I'll do it for the Braves. They were 97-65 last year. I believe they win another. I give them another 5 games and go 102-60. Obviously, that's not really the case, but if that was 162 games, then I'll give them 102-60. When we see how many games there actually is, then I could do an update on that. But let's say there was 162 games played in 2020. I would assume that they would go 102-60. That's my opinion. I do think they still win. They still win the NL East. I still think they're the best team. I know the Nationals won the World Series last year, and I'm not trying to disrespect the Nationals in any way, but I do believe the Braves are still the best team in the NL East. They're one of the best teams in the NL in general, and I continue to see them progressing on the upwards because they're young guys, Acuna, Albies, Freeman, Swanson. They're all only getting better. They're only progressing. None of them are on the decline yet. So I believe the sky's the limit for this team, and I think they're a force to be reckoned with in the National League and in MLB as a whole. So my grade that I'm going to give them is an A-. I think they did their job. Nothing too crazy, but they did what they had to do, and they made their team better. They made their team, in my opinion, a 5-win better team. And, it's either a B+, A-. The only reason I'll give them a B+ is because the loss of Keuchel, the loss of Tehran, their rotation did not really get better. Their rotation got worse, but their lineup got a little better. So I think they stayed around. They're going to stay. The only reason I give them 5 extra games is because, small signings here and there, like a re-signing of a Shane Green or a Cole Hamels signing or a Will Smith signing or a Darren O'Day re-signing. Those small signings here and there, under the radar signings, not big name signings, those is what gets you 5 extra wins, and then you get the Marcell Ozuna big contract signing for a 1-year deal. So I think they go 102-65 in a 162 game season. 102-60 is my record for them. So I appreciate you guys taking your time out of your day to listen to me talk about the Atlanta Braves. If you're not a Braves fan, don't worry. I'm going through every single team. Your team will come up, I promise. 1 through 30. This for a whole month, I will be going team by team, talking about the offseason, talking about what their 2020 season might look like if we play. What 2021 might hold for them. So I appreciate you guys. If you are watching this on YouTube, please like, comment, and subscribe for daily podcast from myself, the Extra Innings Podcast. If you guys have any questions, please just put them in the comments. I will try my best to answer all of them because I really appreciate all the comments. Any feedback, again, is extremely, extremely welcomed and appreciated. So thank you guys so much for taking your time. I appreciate you all, and see you guys in the next episode.